Welcome to Still Serving, the VFW podcast, the official podcast of the Veterans of Foreign Wars. And now, from the VFW Memorial Building in Washington, D.C., here's your host, Rob Couture.
And welcome to Still Serving. I'm your host, Rob Couture. Let's do roll call. Joining me in the studio is Kristina Keenan, Director of National Legislative Service. Hi, Kristina.
Hello, great to be here.
Good to have you here. And also Ryan Gallucci, Executive Director and Assistant Adjutant General of the VFW. Hello, Ryan.
Hey, Rob. Great to be here.
Yes, you have a little less facial hair than you normally have.
Yes. We will get to that in the good of the order.
We sure will. And a special guest today, Smedley Butler, Major General and two-time Medal of Honor recipient and veterans friend and advocate, Smedley Butler. Hello, Smedley. Okay, you can't hear him if you're just listening to the podcast, but, we had to fill some seats here. So anyway, we do have a quorum. If you are here, you are part of this and part of the discussion. Ryan, I'm going to head over to you. What do we have on the agenda for today?
Sure. Thanks, Rob. So look, the bullet points and the panel may not be as many as we've had in past episodes, but I guarantee you this is going to be a pretty comprehensive discussion. Here's what we're going to talk about. So this week, our legislative director, Kristina Keenan, testified before the House Veterans Affairs Committee on a variety of bills. We'll talk about that hearing and what it means for that legislation moving forward. Major update on claim sharks. That's probably going to take up a lot of our time. As always, we have an update on the Major Richard Starr Act because, again, things are moving. Mm-hmm. There's a lot happening as we speak. Our phones are going off incessantly throughout the day. I mean, we started this recording a little bit late as Kristina and I are deliberating some of this. Yep. It's that time of year for the VFW as well. Resolution season. We've talked about this on a couple of episodes, but we're going to talk about it more today because this is how the organization makes decisions. And if we can say it once, we can say it 1,000 times, or Smedley talked about it in 1933. This is how we get things done. So never going to miss an opportunity to talk through it. And then as always, the good of the order.
So Ryan, actually, we have also another segment that I forgot to tell you about, to be frank. And that is, we're bringing back the Still Serving Spotlight, where we focus in on a veteran, a VFW member, people in nonprofits taking care of veterans, and really hone in on a one-on-one conversation. And Brittany's got that one, as she's going to interview the CEO of the new organization that we have been partnered with called Fox Force. So more on that later on. We'll talk about that as we get into the podcast here. But let's start off with the hearings. Kristina, it was kind of a busy week for you. Would you say so?
It was a busy week. Particularly the House is having a lot of hearings. Actually, the House and the Senate are having a lot of hearings right now. We're rolling into the Memorial Day weekend. So just a lot of activity in Congress. I had the opportunity to testify yesterday, which I know is not a week later, but anyway, just before Memorial Day, I had the opportunity to testify before the full House Veterans Affairs Committee on 23 pieces of legislation, and expressed the VFW's views on almost, I think, 22 out of the 23. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was it a contentious hearing at all?
I wouldn't say so, but a lot of questions that I got, that some of the other organizations got. So, the majority put together a hearing on pieces of legislation, a lot of it dealing with VA, and some things that haven't been reviewed or updated for decades.
Oh, wow.
So they're reauthorizing discussing the reauthorization of different aspects of the Department of Veterans Affairs, primarily healthcare, but then also just organizational things like procurement or leasing, and things like that. They're really like nitty-gritty things of how the VA operates.
Yeah. I mean, that's something I think a lot of people out there will say, it's this bill that we get to advocate for. It's this policy that we got to advocate against. But there's a lot of things that it takes the gigantic VA to run and operate, and we have something to say about that. So could you give us some examples?
Yeah, so two sort of organizational things that we supported yesterday at the hearing. So creating an administration within VA, the fourth administration, to separate out economic opportunity benefit programs.
Okay.
So they're now sort of housed under the Veterans Benefits Administration, VBA. But VBA also deals with claims and appeals, which is massive. So some of the other programs get a little overlooked, may not have the resources they need to fully function and to really serve the veteran community. So the thinking is by separating out the economic opportunity programs that they get more attention. They have an undersecretary that oversees them, and we're highly supportive of an effort like that.
This has been a long time priority for the VFW too.
It's an organizational change, but it wouldn't create a lot of new staff. It would really silo those programs just under a new undersecretary. And so some of those programs, many of those programs are involved in the transition of our service members to civilian life. So education programs, voc rehab, the home loan. So transition, we hear a lot from VFW members that a lot of people didn't have the best transitions out of the military. They didn't know what their resources were, or they didn't know how to get them, access them.
Some of them had to do it online, right, Rob?
That's absolutely correct.
All the time.
Online, yeah. Right.
So to really give attention to those programs and separate out claims and appeals so that they have their own resources and management makes a lot of sense for us.
Do you think that I know you're going to say something, Ryan, but I want to play the disgruntled veterans advocate here. Why do we need more bureaucracy in the VA? Why? I thought we were streamlining things. Why would we advocate for another layer of approvals within the VA? I thought the VA had it all going on. He can approve everything he wants from top to bottom, right?
Do you want to take this, Kristina? I have thoughts, but
I think I've said having attention to these programs and the resources that they need is more important than, and I don't think it actually is creating a new layer.
Right.
It is sort of just moving to the side and having just one extra undersecretary that oversees them. It wouldn't actually create a different layer.
Yeah.
But Ryan.
This is spot on because, we're probably going to talk about VHA restructuring as well, which was part of the hearing. But part of the thought process behind Fourth Admin is that you have an undersecretary for benefits, but then they're responsible for dozens of different programs that all require different skill sets and have a different focus on the veteran's life. Yeah. And bureaucracy on its own is not necessarily a bad thing if it's efficient. Right now, the way that VBA is structured is inefficient because that undersecretary is responsible for soup to nuts transition, disability, pension, insurance, home loan, VR&E. And some of those are, completely unrelated to one another.
Yeah.
And a different skill set for an undersecretary or a senior executive leader. And so by creating a more efficient bureaucracy, one where the undersecretary understands the housing market or understands the labor market versus an undersecretary who understands disability law, you'll have more efficient bureaucracy.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Because I think at the moment, what we've seen in the past is an undersecretary for health that knows a lot about health. Exactly. An undersecretary for benefits that tends to know a lot about the claims and appeals process. But like you said, there's so much within VBA. Like how do you have expertise on all of it?
When some of this first surfaced a long time ago a long time back in my day, a long time ago, and we are talking like 2011, 2012 timeframe, post 9/11 GI Bill implementation, some challenges that came along with that really demanded a lot of attention from the Undersecretary for Benefits. But at this same time is when that claims backlog was upticking from Agent Orange related conditions and digitizing the benefits process. And so the undersecretary was dealing with stark very different crises at the same time that demanded different style solutions. And having a subject matter expert who knew the nuance of higher education, I believe the post 9/11 GI Bill rollout would have gone smoother. And the proof is exactly how that went. I mean, they were issuing emergency checks. They had a predatory cottage industry pop up and exploit financial loopholes to overcharge veterans.
Wow, that sounds really familiar.
That sounds very familiar. But, and so I'm excited about this bill and this prospect, and that the committee wants to take agency over, okay, there are all these programs, they're all structured differently, and it's confusing to the veteran. Let's regularly talk about this and regularly renew them so that they work correctly.
Absolutely. Yeah, there was a lot of support from other organizations as well on that point. But I also wanted to add another structural change that we support was creating, maybe it sounds like more bureaucracy, but it's creating an Office of Toxic Exposure Implementation so that there is somebody designated within VA to oversee the Pact Act implementation, which has been ongoing for several years, but it touches nearly every part of VA, from healthcare to benefits.
Oh, wow.
And there's no single person that oversees all of that. So we're in favor of that. And I also advocated for more transparency within VA, what's going on with toxic exposure and the presumptive decision process, so veterans know, like, is my condition being reviewed? Is my exposure being talked about at VA? Because we get calls from veterans maybe every day about like what's going on with, like, I served at Fort McClellan, what's going on with that? Or PFAS, I've been exposed to PFAS, like what's going on with that? So I think veterans want more transparency, and creating this office, I think, could help with that.
That's a good point, because right now it looks like what we've seen is there's a lot in the community, VSOs saying, well, we're not getting regular updates. Well, what's happening here? What's happening there? The way the bureaucracy is structured right now, it seems to be, well, you know, it's between VBA and VHA, and they're the Spider-Mans all pointing at each other.
Yeah, you're right.
It's your responsibility.
Owns it. Everybody owns it in some capacity.
Yeah. Well,
Bad group project.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of seems to be the VA anyways. Like, everybody's different department touches the other department, so to speak. And so, yeah, I guess that's why I asked that, because there's, you know, we have to answer the mail, so to speak, and you get a lot of people online or people calling or people that come straight up to you and like, what are we doing about the bureaucracy there in the VA? You know, I thought we wanted to streamline that. You know, what happened to that? And but it is important to have people that are just solely focused on the things that matter to veterans. Exactly right.
Accountability. It's about accountability.
Yeah. Okay. You are in charge of the Pact Act, you know, implementation, and we're also going to throw VA home loans at you. What?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I mean, that doesn't
Pact Act is going great, but foreclosures are up.
Foreclosures are up, right?
That's true. Expertise is important. I mean, so one of the pieces of legislation was actually focused on reducing bureaucracy. So reducing the VISN structure, which, Ryan, what does that stand for?
Oh,
Veterans Integrated Service Networks.
So it's a layer of VA's administrative bureaucracy, sort of regional administration, we call it. And so there's 18 VISNs within VA.
Right.
Numbered 1 through 23.
Right.
For some reason, 1 through 23, but there's 18.
I mean, it's like healthcare networks. I mean, that's what the VISN is, right? Isn't that what it is? You could be under the...
Yes, exactly.
If you're if maybe you don't have VA and it's under the... it's under TRICARE. Let's say you have TRICARE, right? And so there's like, you know, the East region, the West region. This is kind of similar.
Right, but think of 18.
Yeah, right.
18 of them.
Yeah.
So the chairman introduced a bill that would reduce from 18 to 8, I believe. And so we had a bit of discussion about that. Now, VA is already sort of making moves to restructure in a very similar manner. So we didn't provide full support on that bill, but discussed the need to do some kind of consolidation. And so we kind of want to see how VA handles that on their own before supporting a legislative fix to that. But that's a proposal to reduce bureaucracy and try to make VA structure more efficient.
Kristina, do you find like sometimes when you are talking to congressional staffers, because I can imagine something like this. Okay, now you're looking at jobs, government jobs. Often that government jobs thing is a Democrat issue, right? And maintaining those and having that level where maybe Republicans are like, no, we got to cut the government. So when you go into these, and this is a little bit of inside baseball without naming names or whatever, what kind of conversations do you have to have with staff who are trying to get their bill over the line and need your support, need VFW support? How does that all work?
When they come to us, I mean, they're giving us an argument. And trying to get us to understand why this is needed. But, we also have our VFW members that explain to us, and so a lot of us use VA too. So we kind of understand what is needed, what's realistic. And so there's a fine balance between trying to improve efficiency and not just cutting out everything and using AI to run an administration. So like there's a lot of conversations of like how far to go, where the funding's needed, and we're going to hear all sides, before we really and ask our members what they think. As far as what's really going to be an improvement.
Right. Hence why we have resolutions, which we'll put a pin in that for later on. Ryan.
To that.
Yeah, and on the VISNs themselves, I mean, this is one where, I know the hearing was here in the month of May. This bill, Chairman Bost's bill, was introduced back in December. And we talked about you talked about this in your testimony too, that in true VA fashion, like, okay, the chairman's considering this bill, we're going to restructure the VISNs, and then poof, we're restructuring the VISNs. We don't need
often VA will come to the table and say, you know what, we're already working on that. And they've just created it 2 days before the hearing.
Well,
let me ask you, why do you think that is? Why do you think that they do that? Is that a political maneuver?
Well, I think they're responding to the need. I think they're responding to the pressure and what they're anticipating groups are going to say in support of those changes. So to respond to the outcry that they're feeling is coming, they're going ahead to make those changes, and they can do a lot within the authorities that they already have. So then they can say, well, there's no need for legislation on this. And but it is
don't make me turn this car around.
It's kind of a great opportunity to discuss legislation and then have VA respond on how they can actually do this without the legislation.
Oh, okay.
So
got it.
That just brings them to the table on these very important discussions.
I often think that like the VA will do, oh, no, we got it, we're taken care of. So that way a law doesn't have to be passed to force them to make that change. And because then that would allow them to change it anytime they want. Is that fair to say?
I mean, if they create their own programs, of course they can create them how they think is going to fit.
According to what the administration
Because sometimes
dictates,
legislation, is a good idea, but then it's not as practical as kind of what they're looking at. But as long as the intent is there and they're trying to resolve the same problems, it can be a great way to kind of nudge VA to make improvements on their own.
Got it.
And we get asked that question a lot too, because I'm a firm believer in then going forward with an authorization, because I've seen it time and again.
When something works.
Yeah.
It works well.
Like TAP Promotion Act's a really good example. We've pushed for that for a number of years. We got legislation thanks to VFW comrade Derek Van Orden.
Nice.
But then that encouraged the previous administration to start implementing some of those procedures ahead of time. But it doesn't mean we abandon the authorization, because unless you have the authorization, right now it's just a good idea and it can stop at any point. Another example is when we had some of those GI Bill issues that I was talking about earlier. The Obama administration at the time, we were pushing for legislation to rein in bad actors, create a GI Bill comparison tool, a complaint system, so veterans would have recourse. And they tried to push back, like, no, we're already doing this. We have 8 keys. We're going to build a comparison tool. And they did. They did. But we still pushed for authorization in code. And what's good about that is I believe that that's protected the integrity of the GI Bill across now, 1, 2, 3, 4 presidential administrations.
Oh, wow.
Where they can't just say, well, I want to do it this way or I want to do it differently. They can make tweaks within the margins, but the fundamental structure is going to always be there because it's authorized in statute.
Oh, wow.
Well, and codifying something that VA is already doing is going to bring down the cost of the legislation too.
Right.
Yes.
To where it's minimal. So it's also beneficial if VA has the capacity to create programs that veterans want, to do it on their own, and then Congress can codify that into law, and then we see that going forward permanently.
Well, the other thing too with that is maybe on the positive side, if you want to look at things, it's tough to look at things going on in DC with rose-colored glasses, right? But if they're already doing that change to the VISNs, that means the secretary listened to us because we've been talking about that for a while.
Yes.
So they were making the change without it having to go to Congress.
That's a really good point, Rob, because I think that's something that sometimes gets lost in some of the work that we even do in DC. Because then people are like, well, why hasn't there been a law? Why hasn't this been signed into law? It's like, look, your voice is being heard.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to talk about STAR Act later, but
there are a lot of avenues.
Yeah, this kind of plays into STAR Act because even though the authorization hasn't gone there, there's been so much action and so many veterans have spoken up about it that it caught the attention of Secretary Hegseth and the Pentagon internally is having conversations on what they can do within current authorization.
Yeah, that's really good. And so before because it's a good transition point to go to the STAR Act. Anything else that you wanted to bring up and highlight from your testimony yesterday?
I mean, just one. One of the bills that we discussed would directly impact veterans and their benefits and the health care that they receive. So apart from the bureaucracy and the structure of the administration, there was a dental bill that was discussed, and we have a VFW resolution to expand dental care benefits for those using VA health care. And so currently, veterans using VA can only get dental care if they have a service-connected disability related to their dental needs. And I think in other maybe 100% certain cases like that, you can get some dental care. But this would expand dental care for anyone who uses VA healthcare because dental care is part of your health care. So if you have other serious health conditions, your dental care can be directly related to
yes.
And it's a preventive measure. There's just so many health benefits by having your dental care provided. And so there was some discussion on that, but almost complete support from the veteran community that was present at the hearing.
Awesome.
Supporting this kind of expansion.
Two really great points about dental care for veterans. First of all, that was what Stars and Stripes chose to highlight about your testimony and the hearing yesterday.
Everything that we talked about. Yes.
But it's really great to watch these things play out because it was one of our VFW SVA legislative fellows and friend of the show, Tammy Bartlett.
Tammy, former NLS staffer.
Yes, former deputy director of National Legislative Service. It was the issue she championed.
It was
as a legislative fellow.
Yeah, it's great to see a bill introduced that we can get behind. And support. It would be a significant expansion of that benefit of those services, but it is something that VFW members have communicated to us through the resolutions process that this is important to them.
Yeah.
Before we move on, I do have one more question.
Sure.
And this so I have to address this because we talked about it on the last podcast. We talked that the hearing was coming up. We talked about 2 hearings. So the first one, it's been postponed. It's postponed until July.
Oh, yeah. Greg Ordo's hearing. Right?
Greg Ordo's hearing is postponed until July. There was a lot going on this week. But the second question that I had, because I talked about it on the podcast, the GUARD Act was part of the first hearing, but was not part of this hearing. What happened with the GUARD Act?
That's a very good question. And I received a question about how, is this still important to the VFW, which of course it is. And why, I'm not sure exactly why it was removed. I've heard there was some debate on, well, it's controversial. And we've talked amongst ourselves that there's really nothing controversial about
creating an enforcement mechanism.
Creating penalties for something that's already illegal.
Yeah, right.
I don't know why there's anything controversial about that.
Because sorry, on the last episode, I really pumped it up that we're going to talk about the GUARD Act.
I mean, the ranking member still asked me a question about it, and I was clear that the VFW wants this legislation to move forward, and that by delaying any kind of movement on this bill, more and more veterans are exploited, and their benefits are exploited. So I had the opportunity to comment on it through the Q&A portion, but it was not on the agenda to discuss.
Interesting. Okay. Well, good. Well, thank you for representing us well yesterday, as you always do, Kristina, and your team, by the way.
It was a full team effort.
It was
yes.
With 23 bills on healthcare, education, budget, and transition. I think every member of the team touched this statement for the record. And so it's great to represent the team.
Yeah.
That's my job,
Yeah.
To be able to advocate across all of the issues.
Yeah.
But yeah, full NLS team effort.
It would be great
We also had a special guest there.
Oh, did we?
We did.
Yes.
We did. Our junior vice commander in chief.
That's right. Glenn Umberger he showed up from Pennsylvania.
Drove down. He said he got up at 4 a.m. because he had to drive, then take the metro, then switch metros, then walk. But we were glad to have him attending.
So Glenn has been really excited about this work since he was state commander in Pennsylvania. And, I know Philly's about 3 hours away. He's outside of Philadelphia. It's a 3-hour drive. There's train rides, but there's traffic. There is traffic.
Oh, yeah.
But traffic at Baltimore.
Oh, yeah. Of course. Well, there's no bridge. It's missing a bridge.
Yeah. It's been gone for a few years.
But no, just I think this is the second or third time he's joined us for a hearing, which is great because when our leaders are when our line officers, our leaders are engaged on this, it sends a strong message, especially to the Hill, that this isn't just Kristina's opinion or the opinion of Kristina's staff.
VFW leadership are watching, physically there.
That's right.
Yeah.
Are you and the staff, are you letting the congressional staffers know that the junior vice is going to be there? So he's not just hey, what's his hat say? How come there's way more words on his hat than okay, he's the junior vice commander in chief. Well, great job, and it'll be fascinating to know how much time is quantified, the amount of time that the team puts together on these testimonies, because it's not just your 5 minutes of oral testimony and then the Q&A afterwards. It's a statement for the record, statements for the record, I should say, that we submit on every single one of these opportunities that we're given.
For 23 bills, it might be 10 pages of text that we've put together and had to analyze and research every single one of them.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's more than just even building that report. The staff have to look at each of these bills, and it can get complicated because the way legislation's written, it delete this line of code, add this, cross-reference here to this, and it's incredibly labor intensive for that many bills, and it doesn't happen in a week, in a day. It can take months.
Right.
Yeah, it can.
Well, I'm glad, Ryan, that you like to read, because I know you look over all these things before they go forward. Yeah.
Kristina, I have some comments, and we'll need one clarification.
Yeah. Well, speaking of
the text of this draft bill.
Speaking of clarification, so there has been. Let's move on to the next subject, because there's been a lot of conversation online, things in the veteran sphere as far as what's happening on Capitol Hill regarding the Major Richard Starr Act.
Next.
Yeah, I think
we're going out of order again.
Are we?
Yeah, we had. Let's go to Starr Act. Where are we going?
Well, I figured this is important, right? Because there was a few things that we had talked about beforehand, in this, just talking about the legislation, with regard to a segment of the administration making those policy changes ahead of time. And so I'm not going to necessarily go down that road, but there's so many different things out there. It's important for people to understand where we're at and how some of these things happen, right? I know, I'm going to bring this out. One of the things that has been brought up online, to include me, when you go and look online, like Rob's last little bit, there's people under there say, hey, thanks a lot, VFW, for not mentioning the discharge
You are
petition.
salty, man. Come on.
Well, look,
These are our viewers.
That's fine. Well, that's okay. I mean, we all have a little salt and, sharp elbows, and that's okay, because that's the reason why we're up here, right? And so it's important for us to address that, because I had no idea, and it's not until maybe a day or two ago when I started seeing it underneath my name that I was like, I can remember what the discharge petition, like what that term was, right? Yeah. So that was something I'll let you explain it, because it is a little bit nuanced as far as the way it works and how that goes forward. So first of all, could you tell us what that is and how it's related to the Major Richard Starr Act?
All right, discharge petition.
Yeah.
So this is another avenue to move a bill forward.
Okay.
Particularly through the House. The Major Richard Starr Act has not been heard in a hearing, but there's overwhelming bipartisan support through co-sponsors of this piece of legislation. And so it just takes one member to file a discharge petition, and that's to bypass sort of the regular process. If 250 members sign that discharge petition, which is a simple majority, then that bill can be brought for a full vote.
Okay.
And I think that's the overall goal. A lot of organizations are pushing for a vote. Let's see where
people stand.
Yeah, let's see where members of Congress stand, especially those who co-sponsored the bill.
Right.
Will they actually vote for the bill, as they should?
Yeah.
So this is just one other avenue to move it forward.
I think originally we were going, last year and then this year, especially around March timeframe, there was the unanimous consent vote that was put forward.
In the Senate.
Oh, yeah.
In the Senate.
And Senator Blumenthal put forward while Carol was in the gallery, while our commander-in-chief was in the gallery.
And so that was, hey, let's just see where you all are. But one person, which, there was Senator Johnson from Wisconsin, he went in and said, hey, you know what, I don't, what's the word for it? I forgot what he said. He was like, no, I don't agree with this, or object. Thank you. I object to this going forward. Yep. And he stopped it. So it's hard to say after that.
Yeah, where do people stand?
Yep. So this is another, except it's in the House. This is a way to get people more than just in words saying that they support it. Because there's a lot of senators and a lot of representatives. Well, let's just take this because it's the House. Yeah. There's a lot of representatives out there that will say, yeah, I absolutely support the Major Richard Starr Act. We'll put your money where your mouth is. But Ryan, go ahead.
Just quick, because and this has been a bipartisan killing of this bill over the last couple of Congresses, where you have a lot of people on the record supporting it. Even in the last Congress, the Armed Services Committee did report it out, and then they managed to kill it procedurally. Which means much like Senator Johnson or Senator Wicker before him, it's like what's the minimal exposure we can have? The fewest people on record opposing this.
Wow.
And it just like kind of political maneuvering.
All right.
Anyway.
Well, thank you for that, because it seems like this discharge petition would be pretty easy. Submit it forward, and now it could just go, right? Same day, all set. But we've been talking about, people online have been talking about this for like a week now, maybe more.
Yes.
And
they're wondering why.
What's happening?
So we were informed by congressional staff that ranking member of the House Veterans Affairs Committee, Mark Takano, filed a discharge petition for the Major Richard Starr Act.
Okay.
But as the rules go with discharge petitions, it's got to sit for 7 legislative days before any members of Congress can sign the petition.
What's the reason for that?
The history of that, I don't know.
It's there's a whole thing on Congress.gov about the procedural rules of order and things like that, because it's politically sensitive. It basically is, as you said, it's bypassing the committee of jurisdiction.
Right.
It is throwing normal order out the window.
To force this through.
Okay.
So you need 7 legislative days before members can sign the petition. But there have been several days this month where the House has not been in session.
I see.
And we're also now going into like a holiday weekend recess.
Right.
So no members of Congress have been able to sign the petition. So we haven't advocated for them to do that yet.
So, okay. So,
but there are other reasons for that. Yeah.
But I just to be clear though, so you said 7 days. So there's 7 days that have passed since it was submitted?
Legislative.
No.
Oh, okay.
We haven't gotten to that point yet.
Ah, I see.
So
now this is to be fair, for those that are watching or listening, we're recording this before Memorial Day weekend. So
a lot can change before
a lot can change here real soon.
Actually goes out.
Stay tuned. Yep. Right. But
there are groups on social media that are wondering why the VFW or other organizations aren't pushing for votes for this discharge petition. But there's no way to have votes on the discharge petition yet.
Okay.
But there's also other reasons why it may not be most prudent to push for this as the solution. Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about those? Do you want me to talk about?
So, the discharge petition has brought a lot of other folks to the table to discuss how to get the Major Richard Starr Act passed into law.
Okay.
So the discharge petition was from House Democrat,
right?
But now House Republicans, and also the Senate has ideas of they have thoughts about how they could get the bill to move forward. So we're hearing all ideas, and everything's on the table. We want to see this get move forward.
Yeah.
And we'll continue to advocate for the bill. But precisely what our ask is sort of developing as we speak.
Yeah, this is important for viewers to think about and to really remember, is that the discharge petition is one mechanism of one potential version of the bill. It looks enticing. It looks really, we could just do this and just get this done.
Right.
But discharge petitions are really, they're not a norm. They can be viewed as politically toxic. And so even if it works in the House, the Senate can completely dismiss it. And then we get nothing done and we're back to square one. But what's encouraging about it is even the fact that it exists is encouraging. Yeah. We've seen a ton of momentum within the last month because of the advocacy that the VFW has done, that groups on social media have done, that just the veteran community mobilizing, coalescing behind this one idea has caught the attention of literally everybody.
Yeah.
When you have Secretary Hegseth responding to Senator Blumenthal saying it is the policy of the Pentagon to support this, like we said on the last podcast, that's a major step.
Yes. People are listening.
Yes.
Leaders are listening.
That's great.
That, the House Democrats would assume the risk of even entertaining a discharge petition because of how it's traditionally viewed. It is also another major step. But then it's brought everyone else to the table. And there are serious discussions about getting a Major Richard Starr Act package done in the near term. And I don't believe we're talking about the end of the year near term. I believe we're talking weeks, at most months, or a couple of months.
But this Congress, this Congress, and before things start to get weird towards the end of the year.
Well, it could be like it was for the Pact Act, where they're pushing towards the end of July before they take their August recess.
I will say
they pass it.
Kristina, I don't know your sense, but this feels similar. This feels very similar. Because also I remember during the Pact Act stuff, we were catching some flack too for why aren't you doing enough?
And in a similar way, the House was able to move quicker to get it through. And it was a large package and it had a lot in it. And then the Senate amended it and had to go back to the House for another vote. So when, it kind of went back and forth a few times. And there was a lot of debate of what should be in it, what shouldn't be in it, what are we willing to compromise, all of these things. But they take a lot of conversations by our staff, congressional staff, at my level, Ryan's level, all, our associates are all having meetings amongst each other. And so there's a lot of conversation about this. And the fact that everyone's coming to the table is a very good thing. Not just one side.
Not
just one side from one chamber. So the discharge petition signals one side, one chamber, but it has sparked conversation by all sides, which is what you want to get it passed.
Right.
And I know sometimes it's frustrating, right? We live in a very instant gratification, internet. I want it now. I want it to show up on my doorstep in 48 hours, in 2 business days. If I spend $25, it'll show up today. And there has been a lot of waiting, especially for those affected by the Major Richard Starr Act. And they've had the rug pulled out from under them before.
Right.
But I will say this feels different. This feels different from even where we were in March.
Wow.
And we had these conversations too when Senator Blumenthal was doing his unanimous consent work on the Senate floor. It's like, I think some of this is political jockeying to find out where people are, and just beware. This doesn't mean it gets done.
Right.
Someone's going to object. And it felt like a bit of a slog, and we're saying the same things we said 3 years ago with Senator Tester and the press conference, but something fundamentally changed. And I think it has to do with just the scope of outreach, and keeping a consistent message that we want this done, that this is a top priority for the veteran community. Now, in a day and age of where you want things done yesterday, it's a feature, not a flaw of Congress, that once we have their attention, once there is momentum, by design, they need to be able to have conversations that aren't for social media, that aren't for Facebook. Thankfully, we've been a part of those conversations, which is incredibly helpful.
Yeah, it is. But they're listening to us,
and that's what feels different from where we were even 2 months ago.
Yes,
because some of it was just screaming on the podcast, "We need to get this done." Yeah, contact your legislator. Geez, we've done this all before. I hope
a lot of it was public. Public statements, and now we're having
the conversations that need to happen to actually get this done.
How to get this done. And I would say too, I think the pressure from social media, the public pressure from local media that we've seen, has all
the storytelling.
It has all really helped. What I hope that doesn't happen is that groups start to attack each other, because it's not about what we're doing or not doing, what other groups are doing or not doing. We got to row in the same direction. Yeah, we're all pushing this, and I think we got to not turn on each other, but focus on the goal, which is to get the bill passed.
That's right. I mean, when you go into a military operation, everybody's got their function. Not everybody can be a maneuver unit. Some of you are very specialized. You were in a specialized unit, being that you were in civil affairs.
Hearts and minds.
That's right. Intel, that's a special unit, right? Even, folks that are out there in the medical field, I mean, just combat service support. You can't all do the same thing. It would be great, because then we get done overwhelmingly, but, the enemy's got a say in it. Not saying that Congress is an enemy. I'm just saying that they get it. But
the bill has detractors.
It's got detractors, right? And there's this thing called, it had to ripen in this discharge petition.
There are bureaucratic processes.
We are in the ripening. What a weird term. But I would say one thing.
It is a weird term.
It is weird. But, Ryan, so one of the things that you did bring up, I'm going to bring this up because it's good work of your grassroots advocacy. And that is in the latest magazine of the VFW. Right. This is the May-June issue. There is an article about the Major Richard Starr Act. There's our former National Legislative Director, Pat Murray, in his normal member life advocating.
He's a comrade who's affected by this.
That's right. He's absolutely a comrade.
Let's not forget.
And one of the things is going out and asking for stories for veterans, of veterans that are, because how many Richard Starrs need to pass away before they finally pass this bill? How many families need to continue to suffer before they get off their their fourth point of contact and get this thing done for them? Now, I'm glad that this discharge petition, it sounds to me like it kind of forced them like, oh crap, we're going to be on the record soon, or very soon we're going to be on the record on how we vote on this. And so let's That's what you're saying by bringing all the
pressure is working.
That's working. I like
let's
that.
Continue to work together and keep the pressure on,
right?
Because it is working,
right? So I mean, the thing is that their big thing is what's the pay for, right? So they're still looking for a pay for, and that's the conversations that are going on, and they have to do that. This is the work that Congress is supposed to be doing. We just sometimes it just takes a long time. But we are getting close to the point, I think, where we can no longer accept that. We just hey, we got to drive on with this, and you guys got to get it together.
We're having very serious conversations with the staff in the House and the Senate. So even if we haven't put out a lot publicly lately, there's a lot of work. I was on the phone nearly all day, every day this week, talking about this with congressional staff of where the VFW is and what we want to see move forward.
Are they calling you, or are you calling them?
They are calling us.
Oh, this is great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for a long, long time, it was us knocking on the doors,
exactly. That's what
calling,
saying.
And that's the similarity with the Pact Act, because when we crossed that Rubicon where the Pact Act was actually going to get done, was when it wasn't us knocking on the doors; it was now they were knocking on our doors because there was so much pressure and so much momentum.
Well, okay. Well, that's a great update in the Major Richard Starr Act. And, I know it's frustrating for a lot of people, but things do happen there. Things do happen that have been very frustrating for us for a long time. And Ryan, I'm going to go hand it right over to you and go back a topic that we were supposed to cover. But it has been a thorn in our side.
Speaking
frustration.
of slogs for the last 6 years.
Exactly. So tell us what has happened in North Carolina.
Okay. So last episode, look, we've been trying to include a Claim Sharks and a Starr Act update in every episode because things are changing, and they're changing fast, which is incredibly important, but also somewhat rewarding because these have been years-long fights. Last week I talked about there's a class action lawsuit in North Carolina. I'll just remind our viewers, Ford v. Veterans Guardian, which is a class action lawsuit against a company that charges, where the plaintiffs believe this company charges fees that are in violation of federal law.
Okay.
Which is an important point. I worded it that way for a very specific reason.
Yes, I know you did.
So I said on the last episode that the class notification period had closed, which usually means there's going to be more hearings, more things like that we're not privy to with the courts and things like that. However, when there's an order or a ruling, we are privy to that. That becomes public information.
Right.
And today's May 21st, we're recording. Yesterday was May 20th. Yesterday morning, the judge in this case issued an order on the motions for summary judgment. They denied Veteran Guardian's motion for summary judgment. What that means, I'm not a lawyer, so this is what our general counsel explained to me, that what this means is that both parties had said, hey, we want the court to rule on this, and we think we're right, so just rule on it. Throw it out. We're not going to trial. So Veterans Guardian's motion for summary judgment was denied. The plaintiff's motion was partially granted. Oh. Which is really, really encouraging. And I'm going to read what the judge wrote, because this is something that I think our viewers and our members and anyone who has been taken advantage of by one of these companies has been asking for years. And what the judge wrote is that in partially granting the plaintiff's motion, said acts as an unaccredited agent on behalf of the class members in preparing and presenting initial and non-initial claims to VA in violation of federal law.
Wow.
So
who has been talking about it being in violation of federal law?
Wow, that is a great question, Rob Couture, and I have an answer for you. In April of 2022, I appeared before the House Veterans Affairs subcommittees on Disability Assistance and Memorial Affairs and Oversight and Investigations. Some of you remember this hearing. It was called At What Cost? And really the crux of our argument was these companies should have been greeted at the door by the Capitol Police, not offered the same seat at the table as
my favorite part.
As organizations like ours that do this legally, ethically, and have measures of accountability.
Right.
And in that hearing, we told the committees subcommittees, the specific law that we believe makes these contracts invalid. We asked for the committee's help. We asked for VA's help, because the whole crux of the argument, it was the reason I brought up the GUARD Act before, is, well, first of all, they would say, well, we're not acting as agents, so we're not breaking the law. But then the other one was, well, yeah, even if it's breaking the law, there's no penalty. Well, not every law you would break would land you in jail.
Sure.
Some laws that you would break become a civil matter and mean that the fee you paid, the contract you entered into are invalid.
Yeah.
And look, 2022 was just the first hearing on this.
Yeah.
We had been talking about this since 2020 when we saw the marketing for these companies start to crop up during COVID-19. And then in 2021 was when the VFW magazine first published its warning about
claim sharks.
Claim sharks.
That's where we coined the phrase.
Yeah, coining the phrase claim sharks. And really, April 2022 was the first time there was a hearing on it. And we had introduced this concern or this theory that, look, these contracts aren't valid. They are violating federal law, so the contract is not valid. And, geez, across, sorry, I'm going to get salty now, right?
Yeah.
Across both parties, VA even at the time was like, well, nothing we can do. I don't know. Okay, great.
Yeah.
And far too many people have said, well, we really should negotiate.
Yeah.
What's your negotiation? Like, what are you negotiating? It's like, they're breaking the law. But nevertheless, what a lot of people would also tell us is, well, that's your opinion, or that's VA Office of General Counsel's opinion. Well, now a judge has said it.
Yeah.
And unequivocally eviscerates their doublespeak, because it's something that they've started to propagate in the state houses too. It's like, well, we're not acting as an agent. No. Judge says you are.
Judge says you are.
Ooh.
Judge says you are.
They also
Stop
said
with
they
the
weren't
semantics.
Preparing claims. The judge said that they were.
Judge says you are preparing and presenting initial and non-initial claims in violation of federal law.
Wow.
And look, this isn't settled.
Yeah.
This class action is not settled.
Okay.
It's still proceeding. I view this as a major step, though, because I would view this as like, look, this is what we've established now, and now we need to deliberate what's the relief.
Right. What is the relief? Will the GUARD Act answer that?
So the GUARD Act institutes penalties, like where the government can fine you, or the government can imprison you, and that's important. Also, another thing that we said to the committees as they've been deliberating negotiations or compromises is, look, I don't want bad legislation.
Yeah.
I want accountability, and I want the courts to play this out. Takes a long time.
Well, that's like, going back to Major Richard Starr Act, you want them to be thorough with this, so that way they're not like, well, if we cut here or change the definition here, and then later on down the road we can have issues. And so it's the same thing here with good legislation. You want to make sure that this is no loopholes. It's solid,
Yeah.
And
have to do that.
And so, Kristina, now heading into this congressional recess, I mean, it sounds like your team is gonna take this information and
yeah.
What are we doing with this?
What's the plan, Kristina?
Well, we could renew our call to action on the GUARD Act, and just sort of show that we don't need to negotiate on this issue.
Yeah.
The courts are being very clear that this federal law should stand. So it could renew our efforts behind the GUARD Act and just help our conversations with members of Congress. But we could renew our call to action on this and have our members speak for what they want.
And I think that, it's important for members out there to understand, like, there's a reason why not everybody can get on board. There are some people that paid that money happily, and to pay that money to get whatever they feel that they got that a VSO couldn't do for them or wasn't available to do for them. there are people out there that are embarrassed, I'm sure, that they got duped into this, and they don't want to, like, oh man, a class action lawsuit though. Later on down the road, the ones that are embarrassed might be like, hey, you know what?
It allows them for relief.
That's right.
Yeah, without having to, that I think that's what's so upsetting about this entire scheme. Because even then, like, look, I get it, right? Yeah. I was a service director here for the VFW for a while. I forget the number of years. Long enough to get, complaints about our accredited representatives.
Right.
But the fundamental difference is that if a veteran was concerned about the scope of services that they received from the VFW, there is legal recourse, especially if we did something wrong.
Yeah.
But then beyond that, if they weren't satisfied with the service that we were able to provide, there are so many other accredited VSOs out there. And then there are accredited agents and attorneys.
Yeah.
And especially if you've already filed an initial claim, you can work with an agent, you can work with an attorney. Agents and attorneys can charge fees, by the way, legally.
Yeah.
Because there is a structure to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And it's just absolutely tragic that someone would think that they would need to pay this much money to receive that kind of recourse, especially with things like the Pact Act, and I've spoken to a number of veterans over the years too. It's like, well, I filed for this and then, but, I can, but they told me they could help me finally get it. It's like, well, the law has changed substantially since then, largely through the work of your team, to make it easier, make you qualify for benefits that you may not have qualified for before. And I've said that before on this podcast. Like, we've worked deliberately to make it easier to claim these benefits.
Right.
And then this cottage industry seized that opportunity to try to fleece veterans. There's one more example I want to talk about, because even with some discussions with Hill staffers, they're like, well, what's an appropriate amount, or how many months of future benefits can you take? And there was a very specific example that I came across very recently with a veteran who was diagnosed with a cancer that moves very aggressively, and thankfully is covered by the Pact Act. So the veteran files a claim, ends up dying within a matter of 3 months. The claim is not rated yet. The veteran's family would be entitled to accrued benefits, but only for the period of time that veteran is alive. Now, that veteran is entitled to 100% service connection for that time period, for that 3 months.
Yeah.
The problem, though, if they had signed a contract based on future benefit payments, that contract is for 5 months of future benefits.
Oh.
The spouse or the dependent children, they're not entitled to a full 5 months of that benefit.
Oh, wow.
Whenever VA decides that claim, the accrued benefits would not cover what they would owe the claim shark.
Mm-hmm.
That's, oh man,
tragic. It's tragic.
Tragic.
Yeah.
So instead of receiving financial relief after your loved one very quickly dies from an aggressive cancer, you would owe a claim shark everything in accrued benefits and then some.
Oh my gosh. Mm-hmm. That's awful. Mm-hmm. That's why this is so important that we continue to pound on the table.
It's not about the people who are okay with paying. They were able to pay. There's not everybody can pay, and they shouldn't. No one should have to pay to receive benefits that they earned.
That's right.
That's why we offer free services.
Yeah.
And that's also why they don't come from future benefits.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But and so, but this is, Mike's not here today, but, would be remiss if we didn't talk about the efforts that like the VFW Foundation and others do in order to get the support through donations, because that's how you still have to pay your service officers. You still have to be able to put people in positions and train them and make sure they're accredited. All that stuff does take revenue, and it doesn't come from us charging, because we do it
can't
for free.
By law.
Right. By law, we can't
Nor
do
do
it.
we want to.
Right. Yeah. So real quick, if you wouldn't mind plugging what just happened not long ago over there in Nashville.
Sure. So, and you're right, Rob. I mean, to do the work that we do, we have a professional workforce of accredited representatives. And to maintain that professional workforce, yes, they are paid employees of the VFW. But that requires then fundraising, like many nonprofits who provide a service. Fundraising, corporate sponsorships, things like that. Memberships, we do have that advantage as a membership organization.
Yeah.
But one of our corporate partners, Humana, has made strong investments in our veteran service program over the years. And they hosted our commander-in-chief. Mike is our service director. Hal Arosh, the executive director of our foundation, for a salute to service at the Grand Ole Opry.
Yeah.
Just here ahead of Memorial Day. And they've been a great partner for ours in a variety of ways. First, just by helping us facilitate our training conferences was the first step in major support for veteran service. But there have been other ways that our work has just been mutually beneficial. Ed Sandrick, a retired Marine who helped build this relationship, he's since retired from Humana as well. Like he would say, and it's a common phrase, but I heard him say it a lot: "You do well by doing good." And you can see that with how that relationship worked, because even then, Humana's markets at the state level would support our state service officer efforts, allow them to reach out into more communities. We trained some of their affiliated agents to better understand VA benefits so that they could then refer people to accredited help, even if it wasn't the VFW. That training was agnostic. Humana and USAA worked with Psych Armor to do training videos on what veterans need to know about accredited representation with the VFW and our partner accredited organizations. And now what they've sustained with our training is a scholarship program that allows cross-accredited state and county service officers to attend our training schools on Humana's dime. So the state's not out for it, the county's not out for it, the VFW doesn't have to pay for it, Humana's paying for it, so that more people can receive the timely training that they need to best represent claimants.
That's great.
So thank you to Humana.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just an outstanding relationship, and
Sure.
And I know I went very granular.
Yeah, that's important though.
But that's how that's what our professional workforce does.
Yeah.
And it does require resources, but guess who we're not going to take them from? We're not going to take them from the veteran who needs help.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And, we do all this hard work based on the resolutions that are passed by our members. And, I think that's a good time. We are going into a season in which we're going to be going to the National Convention here coming up in July.
Right.
And that's where all of our resolutions are voted on. So I know that you wanted to talk about this, Kristina.
Oh, before we transition...
Oh, man.
Sorry.
What is it?
No, on Claim Sharks.
Oh.
We never wrapped it up.
Oh, okay. Well, then wrap it.
We were pumping the tires on our service program.
Yes.
But no, here's what I want people to remember too, is to wrap this up in a neat little bow. We have this holding from the judge. We have this order. We are going to distribute it far and wide across the VFW, across social media. We encourage our viewers to do the same. Read it. Share it with your legislators at the federal level, at the state level. This is a big deal. These companies have been going around from state to state trying to muddy the waters, say what they do and don't do, and trying to say, well, we operate in a legal gray area. No, you don't. It is not a gray area. Mm-hmm. It never has been. And now a judge has affirmed what we have said since, it's in the congressional record from April of 2022. Yeah. We've said it for years, the better part of a decade.
Yeah.
And now a judge has said it. I'm done with the bullshit.
Whoa.
I'm done with the bullshit of them saying they're not breaking federal law. I'm done with the bullshit of having to go across the street and say, well, we got to negotiate. I don't negotiate with people who break the law.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
We're done.
Okay.
We're absolutely done.
All right. Wow. Look at Mr. Ryan Gallucci.
Thank you, Smedley.
Getting a little salty there. Our own Salt Bay, Ryan Gallucci. But hey, I'm glad. Here's the thing. Congress. Mm-hmm. we could get pretty upset sometimes. And I've seen this guy with a bullhorn on the steps of the Capitol building.
There's a microphone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Okay. But nevertheless, I think that they should continue to work, listen to us, and get things done on behalf of veterans. Otherwise, it's gonna get loud up in this joint.
It can.
And we do this because of resolutions. We don't do this on our own, folks. We do this because we have the nearly 1 million members of the VFW that push us in this direction, that vote on that. So, Kristina, now back over to you.
Yeah,
resolutions. Where are we?
We have a claim shark resolution, FYI.
Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah,
yes, we do.
Which is why we feel so strongly about this, and our membership does too. So any member of the VFW can propose a resolution. So this is our process, so that any member can be part of the advocacy efforts that we're all involved in here in Washington, D.C. Those resolutions, whether at the post or district level, eventually get to the department level and are voted on at department conventions. Department conventions are kicking off right now and go through June-ish. And so we will then begin to see different departments within the VFW and what they want to move forward to the national convention in Reno this year.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So anything that we should be looking out for in resolutions? Is it should we
don't know yet
about that?
I mean, it's, we want to let the process happen as it does.
Yeah.
So our staff don't want to overly influence that, even though many of us are VFW members. And we can do so through our departments that we're members of. But we want to hear what VFW members are thinking about, talking about, feel strongly about. Like last year, we already have a resolution on toxic exposures, but there are smaller groups of, not smaller, but specific groups of toxic exposed veterans that feel strongly that they should have their own resolution. And we went through a whole process, and they did achieve that, and we respect that. That is part of the process, and now our advocacy efforts are focused.
That's great.
It's a feature, not a flaw.
Yeah, I think so.
How it's supposed to work.
It's how it's supposed to work.
There's some rigorous debate at the convention. It could just be a word change. It could be on the merits of the resolution. There's a lot of discussion and people coming to the microphone to give their thoughts and views. But ultimately, there's a vote. The members decide. And then our legislative team has our marching orders for the year.
That's,
exciting.
It's exciting. And that way, and it's really kind of cool to think about it, because we have a lot of folks that are VFW members that are here on the staff in Washington, D.C., and we can go back to our posts and submit that, but it still has to get through. It's not like we can guide it all the way. I mean, because everybody's got to vote on it. And I think that's the way it should be in an organization like ours. And that way, when you have people out there like, well, why is the VFW? Well, why don't you ask your posts? How'd they vote on that?
And there's it's a pretty straightforward process on how to write a resolution. It's whereas statements and then be it resolved by the veterans of foreign wars that we want this. We want Congress to do this. We want Department of Veterans Affairs to do this. We support this.
Yeah.
They should be germane to Veterans Affairs, Defense Affairs, National Security.
Sure.
That have been thrown out have been for they're not.
It's not.
Or for whatever reason, we can't advocate for certain things. But but generally, I mean, anything's on the table of what really matters to our veterans. It can be discussed at the department level and then potentially at the national level.
I mean, even things like alternative treatments, that started organically at the department level. Things like deprescribing for psychotropic medications, that started at the department level. It started by extensive research by VFW members and building consensus and then advancing it for consideration by the national organization.
Right.
Now we're, HHS and VA and a lot of people are taking notice, legislation in Congress, hearings, and that's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's really interesting that something that it could be an idea with a VFW member that they put forward as a resolution that gets passed and becomes our resolution as an organization could then transfer over to Congress to become their resolution to become an act, which becomes law. Yeah. And all it could take is just one VFW member to do that.
I think we've said it on this podcast before, but to any veteran or VFW member who's watching this, if you've ever sat around with your buddies and said somebody should do something about that, you're that somebody. And if you write a resolution, present it to your post, present it to your department, then it can become a priority for the VFW. We've seen it a number of times, even just in my time on staff with the VFW, is somebody sees a problem in their community, they put pen to paper on that resolution, and then it becomes a national priority. I mean, that's the value of your membership. That's your value of engaging with the organization. And I've seen it work. Yeah. And we encourage it, and honestly are eager to help, and our legislative committee members are eager to help, because veterans are the first ones to see those problems. Yeah. I mean, I know I talked about the overprescribing issue, but veterans were on the front lines of the opioid epidemic, and really the first ones to raise the alarms there. And the VA healthcare system was one of the first ones to fundamentally change how they handled it. And I believe we're similarly on the front lines of this issue. We have a lot of power as veterans. Yeah. And the VFW is structured in a way to give you that voice and that opportunity to be heard.
Well, speaking of empowering, right now I'm going to go over to Brittany Diamond Murray, who's interviewing the founder and executive director of Fox Force, a women veteran-led organization that have an upcoming all-women jump into Normandy to include our Commander-in-Chief, Carol Whitmore. So with more of that, over to Brittany and the Still Serving Spotlight.
Hello and welcome to this segment of Still Serving Spotlight. Today I'm joined by Tony Lavery, co-founder, executive director of the Fox Force Foundation. Thank you so much for being with me today, Tony. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm stoked to be able to speak with you. Finally, I know at VFW we've have a relationship that we just announced earlier this week. So I'm pretty excited for this opportunity to sit down with you. So thank you for taking the time. And,
yes, absolutely.
To get started, would you mind telling me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, 100%. Tony Lavery. I am currently a Sergeant Major in the United States Army, stationed here at Fort Campbell with 5th Special Forces Group. I've been in for about 26 years now, and actually medboarding out of the Army, as we discussed earlier, for a really anomalous eye condition. And that's important because it's led me to Fox Force Foundation. It's kind of the genesis of why we came to this group. And, since finding out I was going to be medboarding out of the military, and I had this weird, crazy, anomalous condition, I started sourcing other ways to try to find healing for my vision. And, the military system, they did the best they could, but they ultimately had to refer me and then refer me. And every single person I saw around the United States was more flabbergasted than the last. And these are all experts in the field. So then as I started to say, okay, what can I do about this? I reached out to a ton of benevolent organizations that I know help with stuff like this, the stuff the military and TRICARE won't cover. And in between leveraging those resources, I also was like, there would be like veteran healing retreats here and there that I just started going to see if any one of these people could educate me on what they thought was going on. And one of the ones that I had gone to back in 2023 was an all-women's platoon of veterans, first responders, law enforcement, and just basically I would coin it like women of service. And at that retreat is where we kind of formed this connection, this community between all of us that was helping one another to heal even post-retreat, right? Mm-hmm. Like this was now 3 years since we've done this and we're still growing together. But then also, I learned that from this community that it's something that other people could benefit from, right? This community of resources, mentorship, advice, things like that, the things that we were all getting from one another. And so that's actually where the idea for Fox Force came, was from this group of amazing women that I got to meet in my own search for healing and recovery. And so, yeah, that's what brings us today. I'm a mother. I have 2 awesome savage boys. Just threw themselves off the couch this morning.
Oh, great.
So we've had a wild morning already. Let's see what else they did. They've run around the backyard half naked and like all these things. And then, of course, I'm married to a vet. He's not a veteran yet. He's an active duty military as well, to my husband, Nick. And that's me in a nutshell. Life is awesome. Everything is great today. It's a little bit cloudy, but everything's awesome. I'm just happy to be here and very blessed.
I am so glad that you could be here. And that is an amazing background and story. And you just gave me a glimpse into what my future holds. I have a 1-year-old son, and awesome. He just started climbing all over everything. And so my husband and my husband's also a veteran, and we're pretty scared. So, if I'm being honest,
if you're ready to never sleep again, that'll do it.
Excellent. Just nightmares. I love the story of how you all came together. I don't love the circumstances necessarily, like, trying to solve these challenges that you're having. Sure. and the continued search, right? But what I do love is that such incredible women found each other and came together for really noble purposes, right? And the skill set among you all is remarkable. I will say that I was snooping your website, and I noticed that you all have ties to high expertise fields. For instance, like you yourself, Army Special Ops, and like you said, first responders, law enforcement, and that's pretty amazing. So you have the skill sets to help women on a much broader basis, more broadly than others are, than many others are equipped to, more than myself, I would say, which is pretty amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, we do. I know how very lucky we are. Yeah. Just the amazing support from even within our own foundation. The ladies, most of them come from, I'd say actually 100% of our staff right now are SOF veterans, special operations veterans, or active duty like me. And then we have some women in the group from within the intelligence community. So that's like a high level of expertise and a different set of skills. Yes. Not to sound like Liam Neeson, but and then we have like women who came from SWAT backgrounds, so like different type of tacticians, and then just all other walks of service, really. And despite even I don't want to say overcoming that, but despite having navigated those high performance, high level of expectation fields, they all also continue to have massive challenges in their lives, and then still persist with expertise and grace, which I think is freaking cool, because not everybody can do that. And I think it's a great visual articulation of how resilient we are as a species and then as women. I think it's awesome. Ooh. I cry every time I talk about it because, we have women in the group who have like 2 terminally ill kids, for example, is one of them. We have another whose son killed himself at 17. Another girl in the group who's awesome and just lights up any room. She's paralyzed from combat, and she has 3 awesome little daughters who are just kicking ass in the world. And it's because she's raising them, like a good mom and a good human. Right. And on top of it, they're opting into this also insane idea that I had to say, hey guys, I know like we are expected to do a lot of things, but why don't you come and jump out of an airplane with us in Normandy on top of all the stuff on your plate? Like, come and do this insane thing. And they're like, oh, hell yeah, let's do it because of what it means. Right. So yeah, I think we know how lucky we are. We have amazing people in this group, and I think they are the role models that so many girls, women, older women wish they had coming up in their lives, like I did, right? Like I wish I had ladies like that, even before the Army, but definitely in the Army, I could have used it. I probably would have made some better choices. And I probably would have had the support that I needed to thrive just a little bit more, you know? And so we want to give that back to the world, essentially. That's why we're here. Because we know there is a demand for it, and we know that it is needed, right? So like, that's exactly why we're here.
Thank you for being so vulnerable and transparent and genuine in, first off, just, sharing with me what you just did. And also, it seems like all of you are probably very similar in that regard. Very altruistic and understanding that you have a tremendous amount to give to others and lift other women up with you. To your point, I wish I had role models like you all growing up. I didn't necessarily have that. And, I joined the military just out of a sense of wanting to serve and protect others and do something bigger. And it really sounds like that's exactly who you all are.
Yeah, it is.
Which is remarkable. And I do want to touch on something significant. You mentioned a jump coming up. Would you be able to expand on the significance of that jump?
Oh, yeah. So I came up with the idea for this jump. So to back it up and give you a little bit of context, one of the fundamental things of our group is that we want to do an annual hardship goal. So last year, before we founded this foundation, our hardship goal was the Baton Death March. So we went and did that as a group.
Yes.
Yeah. And the reason we did that, and the reason we realized that needed to be part of this organization, one of the fundamental aspects to it, was because for the longest time, our original group that had gone to this retreat, we stayed in contact and we would have like a monthly call. And after a couple calls, we had said, okay, guys, we should really just try to do like an annual get together. And for months, we went back and forth with date ranges and locations and stuff like that. And nobody would agree on anything. And they would always like put everything before themselves. They would say, oh, I can't do that weekend because like my kid's going to be picking their nose that day. Or like, oh, I can't do, you know what I mean? There was every reason except for the reason why you could go do it. And I knew that was going to be a persistent thing because we're dealing with a group of women who are they're women of service who are always going to put everything before themselves first. Right. So when my friend, Danielle, her name is, she was my best friend. She is my best friend, but in the military, she was especially my best friend coming up. It was like just the two of us. And she was a single mother of two. I spent a lot of time with her and her sons, and they were like sons to me. And her son, Frankie, is the one I referred to earlier, who killed himself when he just turned 17. And so as she was looking for healing to recover from that, one of the things that she did after she started to be able to kind of recover and realize that there is a way forward for her, she started setting goals for herself, which was amazing. Like it was such a 180 from what had happened, post Frankie's passing. And so her first goal was the Baton Death March. And she had also been to this retreat with me. So after she asked me if I wanted to do the Baton Death March, I first was like, this sucks. No, I don't want to do that. But of course, for you, I'm going to do anything. So like, yes, I'll torture myself to do this Baton Death March with you. But then I thought, hold up, do you mind if I offer this to the group of ladies from the island? Because I think that would be a great thing to do together. And I know I know they're going to all want to do this for some reason. So she said, yeah, go ahead. I offered it to the group, and like a couple hours, like 13 out of the 15 of us who had been trying to get together were like, I just signed up. Let's go. When do we start training? And I was like, all right, that's it. That's what it is. Like, this is what it is. Like, for whatever reason, when we say, hey, girls, I know we've been trying to get together. We were just trying to plan like a spa weekend or whatever. You all said no to that. But once I said, I want you to do this sucky, torturous hell, and it's going to be terrible. It's going to hurt, but like, we're going to all train and work, and like, somehow we're going to trauma bond over it. And as soon as I said that, they were like, oh, that sounds terrible. Sign me up. Yeah. And so that's where we got the idea. So we did that in March. And then after March, June of last year, I jumped into Normandy for D-Day. I was invited by another organization to go jump. And when I landed and I came across the rally point from the drop zone, I just had people flocking around me to take pictures and it was women of all ages, men even too. A lady throws her baby at me. The baby couldn't have been older than 2 months. And I was like, I don't think you should be doing this, but okay, I'll take this picture. And I couldn't figure out why they were doing it until I looked around and I said, oh, this is exactly why. I'm the only woman here. And so they needed to see this so badly that they were just like, there's like a line of people trying to take pictures with me, and like nobody's paying a second of attention to all the hundreds of other guys that just jumped. And so I said, okay, they need to see this. It means they probably have the same demand that we have in the United States,
yes,
which is women need something to aspire to be, and they need the role models that are the ones in the group that I wish I had. So I said, okay, I know this is totally insane, and I know it's going to be a lot of work, but we are going to do a women's jump into Normandy next year for D-Day. So we did. That's what we're doing. I asked, so the organization I jumped with last year was Warrior Rising. They're another veteran nonprofit that supports like veteran entrepreneurship.
Right.
And so I asked them when I had the idea if they would help us like get it going and let me use the resources that they like the other organizations that help them put together their jump. And they're like, oh, heck yeah, let's do this. I said, okay. And then we just started planning it. And then thankfully we had support from Round Canopy Parachute Team. They run the training that does the jumps over there. They also run jumps. They're the ones that are doing the tandem jump for us. They're responsible for that one. And then Liberty Jump Team, which is an awesome veteran. And they're both awesome, but Liberty, especially, like we have more of a personal connection to them because they have ties to Special Forces and like their board and stuff. And they've been bending over backwards to help us get this jump off the road. And so with all three of those organizations made this possible for us. And of course, in addition to like the VFW coming in as a title sponsor, like Chief, Randy, everybody, they've just been so amazing in support. And we're like, yep, this tells us we are doing what we're supposed to be doing, because people want to see this so badly that they're just bending over backwards to help, and they want to see this thing happen. So yeah, we're jumping into Normandy for D-Day. We're going, so when I jumped last year, we wore the traditional male soldier uniform, the replica World War II uniforms, the M42s. Cool, right? Like you have rank and patches and the old helmets and the old boots. And it's awesome seeing all these jumpers come out of the plane, falling through the skies. And as I realized we were going to be doing this women's jump, and we started advertising it and recruiting ladies for the team, which was not a problem, by the way. We had too many to start with.
I imagine so.
We had over 40, and when we first started planning this, we were only allowed 22 because one lift is 22 on a C-47. And yeah, so we definitely whittled it down. Like life's happened, injuries, stuff like that. So, but when we started, we had over 40, which right away like that.
Right.
So last year we wore the M42 uniforms, and this year, now that we get to plan it and we get to make it about the mission we want it to be about, which is commemorating the women who upheld the resistance and stuff like that, we're going to be jumping in the jumpsuits that the ladies who did it jumped in with
awesome.
So they did very clandestinely, like they just jumped in the darkness. Nobody knew they were coming. They wore these benign jumpsuits, and then underneath it, they'd unzip it, take it off, and then they'd have their like 1940s era garb, right? And it was like all cute and pin up and all that stuff. And we're not doing the dresses, but we're doing the suits and the look up here. So it'll be pretty cool to see.
I wish I could be there to watch this, Tony.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I just hearing you talk, I have so many thoughts, and I just don't know how to express how amazing this is, because truly, like the folks from World War II in that era were such a huge motivator for me to join the service. And I am so psyched that you are elevating the stories of the women as well.
Yeah.
And how profound and meaningful that is. It's really something noteworthy. And I would just like to thank you personally for doing this. And you're right, the need for role models, the need for it speaks volumes, the people who were lined up to take pictures with you. It's like, oh no, she's doing that and I can too. She's doing super hard things. The Baton Death March, or that it's an unthinkable thing that our service members were forced to do at that time. And right. I would venture to say you're right, like grueling probably doesn't even cut it. And to commit to walking in their footsteps is really something remarkable as well. And I love that you all came together like without hesitation to do something like that. Because that's really also what service is about. It's like coming together and just doing it and just like dealing with it, embracing, we all say embrace the suck, right? It's like, no, that's truly what it is. And you just get through it. You grit your teeth, you deal with the blisters, you deal with the pain, and you just do it. You keep going, you put one foot in front of the other, and that's it. Yep. And when somebody's falling behind, you stop, you go back and you pick them up, and that's what it's all about. And I just love that you're living it, you're doing it, and you're still active duty, and you're still serving. Like you're still serving in so many in other ways that is really admirable and incredible. And I would be remiss if I also did not mention that our Commander-in-Chief, Carol Whitmore, the first woman ever to be at the helm of the VFW, will be also joining one of these series of 3 jumps, right? So I believe Carol's she's slated for the tandem jump.
Yes, and on June 3rd. Yep.
On June 3rd. And so in addition to Carol, can you highlight some of the other folks who are going to be on this jump?
Yeah. So actually, a couple of the women I mentioned earlier are jumping with us. So we have one, she's from here. She's a military spouse. Her husband actually served in the same organization as me. She was SWAT. And Excellent. She had to give up. She, I believe, too, was the first woman to make it into her SWAT department where she's located. And awesome. She trained very hard to get there. She's a beast. She's awesome. She volunteers probably more than anyone in our group for all these places, like just a good all around person. Yeah. And she has 2 children that were born terminally ill. And so knowing that, like, oh God, here I go again. On top of that, so when it came to a point where they needed guardianship of their kids, like full caregiver duties, she was the one who sacrificed her career that she worked very hard to get into to take care of the kids, right? Obviously that's what she was going to do. She's a mom, Exactly. So for her, that's one lady in our group. She's amazing. We have women from the intelligence community. Obviously, I'm not going to say exactly who they are. Right. We have a Gold Star spouse and a great friend of mine. Her name's Jane. She's not jumping, but she's coming to support in other ways. She couldn't make it to training, so she's going to come and support. We have Gabby, I talked about her before. She was combat injured, and now she's hoping for a solution for her legs. Right now, she has paralysis in her legs, and she is an amazing mom to 3 little girls who run the world, right? That's their favorite song. Yeah. And just all kinds of, and then our team, our staff, who's been the backbone of this organization, they're all special operations veterans, of which one is jumping with us. She came from one of the most elite units in the Army. Yes. And the other 3 can't jump because of existing injuries from their time in service. Right. But they're going to be there to support. They're amazing. They're literally the whole reason we're here. Right. Mercy, Mary, and Tammy, they're just the glue that's been holding us together. They're just so amazing as a team, and we couldn't ask for anything better. I literally pinch myself every day. How do we get to have this? This is just, it's incredible. Yeah.
The group that, you have built, that your team has built is remarkable. I would love to meet each of you. And just thank you face to face. And the stories. It's also the stories that move you. The hardship behind each of the stories, and we hear the word resilience a lot.
We do,
and sometimes I'm not really sure what it means, what resilience means, and as I have a lot of it in my background as well, and like my family suffered. My sister died when she was 16 abruptly.
Oh my God.
And I was young. I was 12, and so I never really got to grow up with her, like in a meaningful way. And
Sure.
And so there's been uncertainty in the word resilience for me all along, because there are other things that came, and it, also throughout my military service, other things kind of stacked on top. And just speaking with you and hearing about the stories of these other women, it's apparent to me that resilience is perhaps just about just getting up again.
Yep.
And continuing. And I think that that's a really important message and story to share, because in all of the stories. And so I'm thankful that you are willing to share them, because they matter. We talk about mental health and the need to talk about it, the need to talk about these things. And I think this is a perfect example of what it means to face a lot of adversity, some of it just profoundly heartbreaking. And yet these women persist. And in big ways, not just little ways, but in big ways.
Yeah. The biggest.
The biggest. And it's just a testament to what we can endure, and just not forget by any means what happened, but to still show up and do our best and show up for each other too.
Yeah.
And so I love that through line. And I'm grateful for you, being so honest and candid, and also for these women, who are involved. I've said this several times, but it's just remarkable. And so I want to shift gears and talk about, your organization is new, and I'm thrilled to see where your organization goes, where Fox Force Foundation goes. And with that, what does it mean to have the support of, the VFW, the nation's, we're super old, we're wicked old, we're so old. We're the oldest and most established veteran service organization. So what does it mean to have the support of VFW as you start growing and making impact?
It's huge. The first thing that comes to mind is it's such a validation that lets us know that we are doing something right. Yeah. Especially as the VFW kind of grows in its advocacy for different areas in support of veterans and their families, right? Like they're advocating for things that I didn't even know the VFW did. For example, like women's healthcare services on bases and installations that don't offer them. Mm-hmm. That thought would never even cross my mind, like that you wouldn't have like a OBGYN service for pregnant mothers. That was one of the first things I learned in talking to Randy and Brian about new initiatives that the VFW is working on. Mm-hmm. And so to hear that an organization that aligns so very closely with ours, which is in the advocacy of others, and then also in just helping improve the lives of those around us, right? Whether, theirs is targeted specifically at veterans and their families, ours touches veterans and other just women of all walks of life. Mm-hmm. So that's like, just the alignment is so perfect. But then also the validation has been huge for us because, most people probably, I would hope, maybe not hope because it kind of sucks, but like most people I would think would agree that in the nonprofit space when you're just starting or any business entrepreneurship starting up, there's so much uncertainty that like you're doing the right thing and what you're doing is going to work. And so having someone like the VFW just come and say, oh my gosh, we recognize what you're doing. We love it. We want to support you. And that's just been validating for us. And it's giving us the energy we need to keep pushing and say, okay, we're on the right path, guys. Let's go, let's go, let's go. So yeah, it's been exciting, validating, like heartwarming even, like just, I think, Randy and Brian, but just getting to talk to them as often as I have, sponsorship or not, I just want to be friends with them. Like they've just been such a light in my life too. It's been amazing. And then I finally got to meet Chief Whitmore for the first time virtually, and she's just a gem. Like she's awesome. I'm like, and then talking to her on the emails and just hearing her, I'm like, she's a badass. Like, of course she's going to jump with us. This is awesome.
Yeah, she's one of the last WACs from the Women's Army Corps. Like,
I know.
It's just wild.
It's wild. She's a living piece of history. Like she is, right? Like that's so cool.
She is. And now she's just like, yeah, that's whatever. I'm just going to go jump out of a plane now. And I'm like, wow, like Carol, like you've been getting it, but like, get it. Of course you are. You speak about advocacy, and you're right. Like if there's something to be advocated for, in terms of the well-being for veterans, like you bet VFW's there. And I had no idea VFW did this before I became one of the staff members. Yep. Completely oblivious. And I would argue there are probably a lot of VFW members out there and non-VFW folks alike who don't know the footprint that we have on Capitol Hill, which is remarkable. And it truly does make an impact. And you're right in that we're so aligned. We've spoken about, the need to keep serving. And I know that's a through line I saw like on your website, and we've spoken about it. And, VFW launched a Still Serving campaign, about 5-6 years ago. And that's because that's exactly what we want to embody in the organization. Find a way. Military service members and veterans are united by a common mission, right? Yeah. And it's kind of hard to find that once you leave the service. Mm-hmm. And some of us can be left kind of a little bit rudderless. And so what we're trying to do, and what you're also doing as well, is to help veterans figure out what that purpose is. Like, how can they still serve? What can they rally behind? Yep. And that's the backbone of the campaign. Which I love, and I'm thrilled that we're so aligned in that way. I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah. And so
I just sorry, did I just cut you off?
No, you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
On that same point, I will say that that's another prong to our kind of overall way that we give back, is that the women in our organization, since they're all mostly veterans and women of service, law enforcement and everything, it's giving a lot of them the purpose they needed upon transition. I can't tell you how many times I've heard it. Every single person in our organization and every person who has just come out of the woodwork, hey, like, oh my God, I don't know exactly what this is here. I just know that it's for me and it's what I think I need right now. Yeah. And I'll have these calls with people that I just meet from some of our ads and some of our social media. And it's all women who've gotten transitioned out of some phase of life, whether it was the military or like a contractor job they took, and they went through a divorce and they were a veteran, and they're like, I've needed this for so long. I don't even know exactly what it is, but I know I need it. And I explain the mission and all of our programs and services. And then they're like, yes, I don't know how you can use me, but please just take me. Like, this is what I need. And then they're here and they're doing it. And they're like, yep, this is the purpose I needed. And as you said, like, identity crisis is a huge aspect of transition out of any major life chapter, right? So it doesn't just have to be veterans. No. It's happening in law enforcement too. Like, my cousin visited us a while ago, and her husband's been serving with the police department for long enough to retire from there. Right. And I asked her how it was going, and she said he's like massively depressed because he doesn't know this has been his whole life, and now he's getting out. And I had asked her, like, well, what transition programs is he going to? And she swear to God, thought I was like referring to like transgenderism, like he was going to get like what kind of, like she had no clue. She had never heard of transition programs for leaving service to civilian life. And so just that alone let me know that, well, law enforcement probably don't have any at all.
No,
and they don't.
That's what I'm hearing.
They don't. And I'm like, well, shoot, they have probably times like 400% the traumatic instances that we do in the military.
It's daily.
So, it's daily. Exactly.
We deploy to zones that are hostile.
Yes.
They can be in a hostile situation every day.
Their whole career. Yeah. So
and then they have to go home at night.
Yep. And they got to shut it off to do family time, or they don't.
No.
Yeah.
And so to think that they don't have transition support.
Yep.
Is a bit heartbreaking because you can't. As an example, the military does a great job training you to become a soldier, sailor, Marine, et cetera. But they don't do a great job untraining you, training you to go back and become a civilian again.
Yep.
But they try. There's effort. There's a level of effort there, and between DoD and VA, to not have anything though is something else altogether.
Right.
And that's, I think heartbreaking is the best way to say it, because how do you just leave those, first responders without support? And also, to your point, they're taking off their uniform too.
Yep.
And because the uniform comes with a pretty heavy identity. And once it comes off, it's like, well, what? Like, who am I now? What do I do now? Well, who am I without that? Especially in your case, you've been in for 26 years. Your most formative years have been a soldier. And so you've never really been an adult without that identity.
Right.
So what does that mean?
Yeah.
Who are you afterward? And for me, I think it took a solid 7 years before I felt like I started having an answer. And I think that timeline is different for everyone.
Yeah.
And
mine was really expedited when I had this eye situation happen. And just me persisting on, just being persistent and diligent on finding answers is what forced me to branch out. And it's probably what saved me, because I wasn't, we have the resources, especially in special ops. There's so many organizations that want to help specifically special operations. So I had the privilege of going to the Honor Foundation, which does the transition program for just transitioning veterans, soft veterans, and then support. But then we also have all these benevolent organizations that tailor to special operations who need medical services that aren't traditionally covered. And so they sent me to all these things in addition to the transition program. And then I started going to all these networking events to try to find answers, but also to try to find myself as I was getting out of the military. And so again, the eyes probably are what did it on a much shorter path than if I hadn't done that, because I never would have said, okay, I need help. Right? If my eyes never happened, I probably would have been stubborn and I don't need help, I'm fine. And then I would have just retired regularly. And then here we would be 10 years later and I'm still struggling. Whereas this path I took, which I believe happened very much for a reason, it didn't force me, but it just kind of guided me into these pathways that made me know myself better, know what my real purpose is. Think you're being told you're going to go blind, your priorities change really freaking fast.
I imagine.
And I'm I want time with my family. I want it to be quality time. And I'm going to do anything I do in my life in general, in my livelihood. If it does not offer me those things that are my priorities, time with my family and quality time with them, then I don't want anything to do with it. And that really made my purpose very clear. And like my identity, I was like, all right, the Army, I love you to death. You guys gave me so many opportunities. You made me who I am. But Army, also, you are going to move on without me. I'm just a cog in the wheel. And that's it. Like once I could make that, like, I don't want to say disassociation, but once I could say, all right, make that very pragmatic acknowledgement, like this thing's going to go on without me. I am somebody outside of the military. I know what's important in my life. Then I was fine. I went through a weird phase where I was like, how am I going to be anything without my security clearance, my polys, like all this stuff I have that makes me feel like I matter, like I'm giving, I have to have all these things. And what am I going to do if I'm not read on to current ops and like part of the operation and deploying? Like that was such a struggle for me. Yes. And then once I started, pun intended, seeing things differently, with a different lens on priorities and what really mattered to me, then it was no longer an issue. It wasn't. Now I'm very clear on what my path is and my focus and what matters in life. And I'm very clear on who I am. Where before I wasn't. So I guess, my vision loss, I do believe it's happening for a reason. And I think all of us are, believe it or not, better off for it. So, and I don't want to say I wish everyone else would go through the same thing to know their purpose, but I wish everyone could have the sense that I do. I feel great, whereas before not knowing that just is the worst feeling in the world.
Right. I am absolutely thrilled that you are content and clear-eyed about the path forward for you. You're right, because that's a gift. It's a gift. And, we don't always understand why we get the gifts we do, however they present themselves. But in this context, it's really been of, tremendous value for you, it sounds like. And with that, I know that this is all wrapped into the purpose behind Fox Force Foundation. And the last thing I want to ask you is what the vision is. What do this upcoming jump included? What does your organization hope to accomplish, through this jump and through subsequent events, and going forward? What's the vision?
Yeah, the vision is very simple, just a community, right? We want to offer a community for all women to get the support, the advocacy, the resources that they need. So we want to leverage this jump. It's serving a couple purposes. Obviously, we're commemorating women of the past and the amazing things they did to offer us the freedoms that we have today. Like without the women who did the things that they did, intelligence networks, resistance support, setting up the DZs so that we could go jump in on actual D-Day. Like without that, we could be speaking German right now under a very communist, terrible, horrific, global rule. I don't know what would have happened, but like, thank God that those women did that, because otherwise who knows where we would be today. But then we also are kind of paralleling them with the women of today who I would say are doing the same things, right? It's just 60, 70 years later, or it's 82 because it's the 82nd anniversary. So that's kind of one and two things. And then the third is like, this is officially the launch of our foundation. So this is where we say, this is who we are. This is why we're here. And we want you to know that we are your community. If you want us, we're not saying everybody has to do it, but like ladies, girls, even men who want to know about the women in their lives, like who need like single fathers of daughters, right? If you need some development on what it's like, how do you need to talk to your daughter? Like what's she going through in these ages? Like we're for you. So just check us out. I mean, we're here to support is it. That's it.
I love that. I love it through and through. And so if anyone wants to get involved, women, men, anyone alike, supporters, like how would they get involved?
Easy. Just they can go to our website. We're at www.foxforce55.org. We also have social media handles under the same Fox Force 55 or Fox Force LV. They could I mean, that's really it. They can email us at info@foxforce55.org if they don't want to go to the website. Okay. Yeah, tons of ways to get in contact.
Awesome.
Carrier pigeon.
You may carry your pigeon. Well, you may see a message from me. So TBD. But are there anything, any items you want to leave listeners with before we part ways?
I guess, yeah, I would say for sure, if you're struggling, if you have kids who are struggling, just because this has been such it's singed in my mind. I will never forget this moment, how it made me feel, what it did for my life. If you know anyone struggling, kids struggling, like, please share with them the 988 hotline, please. If Frankie knew that and he thought he had someone to talk to through that, he might still be with us. And I know kids are not necessarily the best communicators, right? They're not armed with healthy back and forth, and they're not fully developed in their brains and decision-making part of their brain. So for some reason, it's easiest for us to text. You kind of have a barrier to judgment through text, I think, is why that's so easy. And you can text through that hotline. Yes. You can also call, and there's a website also that gives you all the tools you need. So if anyone, and I don't mean just kids, but of course, like, I want you to give this to your kids if you're worried about them, especially veterans. Veteran children are at much higher probability of suicide than any other child, which is why this is so important to us. So I would say use that resource, please. Please put it out there. Please, in the schools, please, parents, like, everybody, just use it and get familiar with it. Would be what I would leave this conversation with.
I'm so glad that you're talking about that, because you're right. Military kids, veteran kids, they carry a heavy burden.
Yep.
And that is not necessarily common knowledge, especially because they're such a minority.
Yep.
And so that message is extraordinarily important and critical. And so thank you. Yep. Thank you. And with that, I want to thank you sincerely, the most sincere. Thank you so much for what you're doing, you and your colleagues. And I'm thrilled about, as on a personal level and as a VFW member and as a VFW employee, I'm thrilled to have this relationship between our organizations, and I'm just really psyched to see where you all go and how you grow your organization. So thank you again, and I appreciate you joining me today. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you. It's been such a pleasure.
Likewise.
All right, and back to us here in the studio. Before we go, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about our good of the order, and I think that's it, right? Are we at the good of the order? I think we are.
We're at the good of the order.
We are at the good of the order. So, Kristina, let's go with you. What is your good of the order?
So this is my first podcast back.
Yay!
After my maternity leave.
Yeah, sure.
And nearly every member of Congress that was at the hearing yesterday.
Oh, first hearing back.
It was my first hearing back and my first podcast back.
Yeah.
After maternity leave, and Chairman Bost kindly gave me some congratulations on the birth of my daughter, and then every member in the room felt obligated to also the birth of my baby to welcome me back.
That's hilarious.
So,
which is now on the congressional record.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Yes. So everyone felt obligated. Yeah. Of course, before I give my remarks, I just want to say to Ms. Keenan, congratulations on the birth of your daughter. So it was actually quite funny.
That is crazy. I didn't think about that, Ryan. Like, it is in the history books.
Yes.
Moving over to the Library of Congress.
I know.
That'll talk about that.
Awesome. Yes. That is outstanding.
So it was just a fun.
I hope you don't have any questions for the record on that.
But it was just like a funny added thing.
Yeah.
Kind of, maybe a stiff or boring kind of hearing of just, our general business items. And, some personal family things just thrown in there. But it's good to be back from my maternity leave.
Yeah.
Super excited for all the things that we have going on, and especially our national convention, which is always really exciting.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, Kristina, and welcome back. We are happy to have you back in here. Ryan, what is your good of the order?
All right, my good of the order. So my face looks a little bit different today.
Yeah, I know. I said you had less hair, and you were going to talk about it. So
yes, I am going to talk about it. So everyone may remember last year when I had the mustache. I had to explain my way out of that one. It's that time of year again. A couple of years ago, Kristina's predecessor, Pat Murray, said in the springtime I needed to be off the road more. And so what did I do? I pursued something outside of work, community theater.
Yep.
As one does in their mid-50s.
Yes.
Again, auditioned for Annapolis Summer Garden Theater in downtown Annapolis, big Navy town.
Yeah.
And was cast in Cabaret this year.
Oh.
It's a little bit different.
Right.
Before it was like, funny jukebox songs that we all know. This one's more artistic, a bit heavier. And I have with me. There it is.
Oh, there you are.
Happening. No, I'm not on there.
Oh,
I'm not.
Well,
on there, actually,
kind of like there you are. There's that's today.
There you are. Here we are.
Yeah. Here.
And it keeps me in town from May 21st to June 20th.
Okay.
On weekends.
Yeah.
We had our invited dress rehearsal, technically opening nights tonight.
Yeah.
If the rain holds off, because it is outside.
It is. Well,
it is outside.
Because I've been to one of your
you both have been.
Yeah.
You both have been.
And when I went, it rained. Like
they
had to stop. I think it was Rock of Ages.
It was.
And they had to stop the program so they could mop up the floor. Anyway.
Kristina got the full experience. It was nice out.
Yeah.
Great. It was a beautiful night. And it's great that you're kind of under the stars.
Yeah, it's very
cool.
cool.
It's like, it's cool.
And so it's just, a great, it's a great outlet to have something other than work, and also something that you're really part of the community too. It's just a lot of fun. This show, I will warn, is not fun. It starts out fun, and it's not a happy ending.
Well,
we'll warn that anyone's familiar with it.
Yeah.
And this is the third time that this theater has put this on. 1972, 2006 were the other times.
Oh, wow.
And this is their 60th anniversary season. So
wow.
It's a great little community theater.
Yeah.
It's outside, those nights outside, doing something outside when the weather starts to get nice. I just really enjoy it. And it also keeps me in town during a very chaotic time for the legislative team.
Yeah, that's good.
Allows me to attend the calls and meetings that Kristina and I probably need to get on right now.
Right.
About 50 calls.
Well, yeah. Well, okay. So I'll wrap up mine real quick. And you talk about Cabaret. I mean, that's focused during World War II time era.
The interwar period.
The interwar
about
period.
The rise of fascism in Germany.
Well, the interwar period. So interesting. My good of the order is I was asked to represent the VFW in Flanders Field. It's an annual reading, if you will, put on by the Belgian embassy and those representatives that are here in Washington, D.C. As you know, Flanders Field from the First World War turned out to be a poem, and from that the Buddy Poppy was born. But that is tied so closely to the VFW and actually other military service organizations and veteran service organizations. So I figured and
Commonwealth nations,
and I figured since before we go out for this and head into the Memorial Day weekend, and I know this is going to air afterwards, I would like to read the poem, if I may. Good. It is by Major John McCrae from the Canadian Army, actually, for our friends over there in Canada. In Flanders Fields. In Flanders Fields, the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place. And in the sky, the larks, still bravely singing, fly scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunlight glow, and loved and were loved. And now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from falling hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields. So as we go through Memorial Day and every day, we always remember our fallen comrades and those who have gone before us, who have fought the good fight. And, here in the VFW, we'll continue to fight the good fight to honor our dead by helping the living. And with that, thank you very much for being part of the podcast. And thank you for tuning in, watching us, and listening to us. Make sure that you like, subscribe, follow, and get the latest. Put your notifications on for when the next podcast comes. Until then, I'm Rob Couture, reminding you that when it comes to the VFW, we are still serving. Take care.
Thank you for listening to Still Serving, the VFW podcast. To get the latest news and information from the Veterans of Foreign Wars, make sure to follow, like, and subscribe to us on social media at VFW HQ, on Facebook at VFW Fans, or visit our website at vfw.org.